Right, I'm back now. So, yes, hello, we are Geeks Assembled, and we've gathered here today to talk about the Doctor Who classic with Patrick Troughton, the Krotons. And we're going to jump straight in. Let's go with Brian. What did you make of this story, Brian?
Why do you always have to go to me first?
Because you're my favourite member. Do you know what? Our subscribers and viewers, they come to hear your opinion. Not ours. Yeah, not the rest of these lot. They're just filler. They're just to fill the time.
Yeah, you're right. Especially, especially Lee.
Exactly. No, we have to have him on. Yes.
Okay.
I'll have to have something to do. I'd have to keep off the streets somehow. Do you get what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyway.
The Krotons, Brian.
Krotons. Well, before I do that, Happy New Year!
You just burst Lee's eardrums.
All right. So, the Krotons. What I thought of the Krotons is just absolutely fantastic story for a Classic Who episode. This is what Classic Who and Doctor Who itself is all about. Patrick Troughton and Zoe. What's that? Is it Wendy Padbury in real life?
Zoe Harriet.
Who was Wendy then?
Wendy Padbury played Zoe Harriet.
I'm confused.
You're confused now.
Anyway,
don't worry about it. Don't worry about it, Brian. Just move on with your review.
Anyway, back to the story. But the Doctor and Zoe and Jamie within this story are just absolutely brilliant, and it's Classic Who. It's classic Doctor Who.
Yeah, but what about the story?
Even though
it's Classic Who, you keep repeating that, but what?
Well, I'm just my general point, Alan, is just this is from what true Doctor Who is. All right, that's my point, because I know how with some Doctor Who stories, even with New Who days, it's not really that great. But this is from where Doctor Who really shines and is. I love the story. I love the Krotons that are in it. It's just one of those stories that's just absolutely good, and I just enjoy it. I enjoy every minute of it, all 6 parts and everything. So it's just one of the best. I love it.
There might be a slight issue there, but let's go on to Lee.
Six.
Yeah, I'm beginning to think I must have missed some episodes, you know.
I must have missed.
Check my DVD a second. Wait there.
I must have missed 2 episodes. Huh?
Oh, the American version must be longer. Because mine's only 4.
Wait, hold on. Did I watch the wrong story?
You watched the wrong story.
No. Anyways, it's the Krotons. This was a last-minute addition to this season. The story failed, and they got Robert Holmes' script, and this is his first time writing for the show, Robert Holmes. And you could tell this was what do you say? It's his first outing in Doctor Who, because it's good, but it's not, A+ Doctor Who. It's what did I say? It's not one of Troughton's best, but it's not one of his worst. So it's in the middle for me, this one. I can't fault the acting. Wendy, Fraser, and Patrick are a brilliant team, as was Deborah Watling when she was in it. Troughton's brilliant as well, because he plays the fool. Because this is his Doctor. He's always playing the fool. He's always playing that he's stupid, but then click of a finger, and he's on the ball, and he's destroyed the enemy, sort of thing. I love Troutman. He's one of the best doctors in my opinion. Krotons, I do love the Krotons. I love the South African voices used for this, for the Krotons. It really does work. The top half of the Krotons design is brilliant. The bottom half, you can forget it. They should never have shown. They just should have kept it at close up for the Krotons, I think, because you don't really want to see a plastic skirt. I do. I like the situation as well of the keeping the getting the intellectual gongs to fuel the Krotons' rebirth, sort of thing. And then so the Doctor and his team come along, and hold on, so the Krotons have struck gold here with it, with Zoe and the Doctor's brain. Also, you've got a good supporting cast with Philip Maddock, which he has been in many Doctor Who's, and we also did an audio yesterday, and he was in that one as well, but sadly no longer with us. But yeah, I enjoyed this for a four-parter of Doctor Who. It's enjoyable, but it's not one of the best, but it's not one of the worst. Over to you, Alid.
I'm still intrigued with what episode Brian actually watched. But no, I agree with Lee. With the thing is with the Krotons, they look when they've got like the headshots where the camera's panning up to just the heads. They look great, but as soon as you see them with their arms and things like that, the arms look silly, and the rest of them just looks even sillier. But the top half, when they just focus on the head, the head bit looks brilliant. But sadly, the rest of the Kroton doesn't really work. Let's go to Harry. He's got the book as well.
Of course, I've got the book, Alan. I'm always prepared with the book for one of our shows. As Lee mentioned, Krotons was not originally part of the series. It was a story that was put offside by Terrence Dicks when he was involved with the show. It was during a time when there was a lot of lack of stories coming through, and Terrence pulled this one off to the side. And when there was problems with the story that was originally supposed to come in, it didn't work, so they pulled the Krotons and put it in there. Robert Holmes, what can I say? Robert Holmes, on many occasions, was a great writer. Unfortunately, this was his first outing with Doctor Who, and you can tell, well, not just from the story as it was shown on television, but from the book, it needed work. Even with Terrence Dicks doing the book, the story needed work. As mentioned, not the greatest of stories, not the worst of stories, but not bad for a first outing by an author. But all I gotta say is, further on we go down into the Pertwee era and such, you'll see how much better an author, a writer of stories, Robert Holmes can be. That's the best I've got to say on the subject.
Let's go to Wales, to Swansea with Stephen Price.
It's the Swansea man.
If he's there. No, let's go to Beef Dad, and then we'll go back to Stephen.
Yeah, I enjoyed this. I know that Fraser and Wendy both enjoyed doing this one. I love the concept of it. Yes, they were like robots, but they were actually crystalline, which was an interesting concept. And of course, there was just the two of them, and they had been ruling the Gonds for years and educating the Gonds, and then if each time they took the two top students and used them use their minds to power their gizmo, to keep their power going, and then they killed them. Because apart from anything else, if they'd let them carry on, they might have been able to work out scientific ways of getting rid of the Krotons. So that it was a rather clever idea, and it was. I thought it was pretty well executed. And yeah, of course, the script was edited by Terrance Dicks. He was the script editor on it. And yeah, Philip Maddock, brilliant. And of course, he appears later in the season in the War Games. And every time, Philip Maddock always gives a brilliant performance. He's always there. And it was the doctor teaching the guy, the science guy there, how to make sulfuric acid. And of course, the sulfuric acid was the thing that finally kills off the Krotons. Just absolutely brilliantly done, brilliant, well worked out. But one of the things that I really loved about this was I did very much enjoy the music. The music was very, very good for this one. Very, very good indeed. And as I say, yes, Wendy and Fraser both enjoyed doing this. And Wendy, well, I remember having a cigarette outside the hotel in Castle with Wendy, and her telling me that yes, everybody makes the joke about the Krotons and the Krotons. She said, and it's amazing how many people do that. She said, first time I heard it was funny, but it stopped being funny years ago. But yeah, it was, yeah, I enjoyed it.
Jolly ho, let's go to Alex and Susan.
Okay. Yeah, I wanted to ask Harry, if I could, what's the differences between the TV show and the book? Because the book was edited by Terrance Dicks, who was the script editor, and even though a lot of people viewed his stories as kind of old-fashioned, I thought he had the character and the persona of the Doctor and the soul, if you forgive me for saying so, the soul of the Doctor down.
Oh yeah, totally.
I know he's elderly now. I do kind of miss that they haven't brought him back into New Who for one story, and I'm always secretly hoping that he can write one before he finally passes away.
Terrance Dicks, you mean?
Yeah, because I know he must be 90, 93 by now.
He did write a book. He has written a few of the New Who books with David Tennant, hasn't he?
And the Seventh Doctor too, as well. But I'd like to see him, and I know he did for the Eighth Doctor as well, where the Eighth Doctor and the Sixth Doctor met. But I would have loved if he could have done one story for all the new 9 to 13 or whatever you want to call it. Anyway, Harry,
he might not want to.
Yeah, they may not want to pay him either. Anyway, Harry, did you notice any differences in the books as opposed to the TV version of it?
Definitely. Terrance, as his habit, especially when it's a Robert Holmes story, he truly sinks his teeth into the story. He puts in extra details that you don't normally pick up on. Little descriptions, little details. You don't see it or pick up on it so much on the broadcast, but he brings it out in the stories. In fact, during the days when Target was doing telling which authors to do it, and they were doing mainly the original authors for the stories, when it came to Robert Holmes stories or stories that were John Pertwee stories, Target would automatically give those stories to Terrance Dicks because he was so good at writing those stories. If they couldn't get the original author and they couldn't get Terrence to do it, then they turned it over to Ian Marter. But basically, it was if they wanted an author, couldn't get the original writer of the story to do it, they turned the story over to Terrence, and Terrence went to work on it.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, too, this was also the days when not only was Doctor Who the biggest and getting to be the biggest, and also there wasn't too many other British shows to compete. But that was the other era where they could do 4 to 12 to 16 episodes and have the cliffhangers as well, where you can't do that now in the internet digital age because there's not enough time to do it. I thought the story dragged on a little bit, and I thought the Krotons sort of acted like the Daleks. And I agree with Lee and Aled that if they had kept it above, if they had kept it as a headshot, it would have definitely been scarier. But again, as I've heard from other, producers and directors, they had limited time and limited budget and limited, until Mary Whitehouse was complaining about all the violence in Doctor Who, even though they got a spike in figures. They're doing everything sort of on a shoestring budget. And the funny thing is, if you really think about it, I mean, Doctor Who still influences TV sci-fi. And it's still, they did the best with very little that they had. Jokes or no jokes. Of course, now it looks better because not all the computer animation costs millions of dollars anymore. But, I mean, considering how it could have been and considering how everybody can think of one story that they really, really hated. And this isn't one of them. I mean, it was trying to be a lot of characters and a lot of positions and a lot of, political intrigue, which is fine. I mean, sci-fi also has room to do that as well. And sci-fi is actually, in a lot of cases, a political allegory dressed up in spacesuits or whatever else you want to call it, creatures or whatever, to do that. So this is sort of an interesting political
sci-fi is one of the most political genres there is in television and film and books and everything. Sci-fi is one of the most political.
So I like the fact in this one that that Zoe was proved to be actually more intellectually astute than the Doctor, and that she and the Doctor was almost as smart as she was, which was fun to hear. It was super fun to hear. And the other thing that I enjoyed was when, they kept Jamie, they were grilling Jamie, but as they were grilling Jamie, they were disclosing their whole plan. Oh my gosh. They're like, this guy's a primitive. We'll be able to waste him. But it's Jamie. And he's from Scotland, and he's gonna win over those South African Krotons. So I mean, he was brilliant, and the fact that he pulled on his I mean, there's nobody who plays humble more effectively than Fraser Hines, and he just pulled on that, and I mean, and using that the even these faceless Krotons were sucked in. I mean, you could see it. You could see that they sucked in. They were sucked in. It was a good performance. Anyway, the other thing that I enjoyed about this story was the crystalline ship that had grown roots in the planet. I mean, kind of a cool concept. I mean, anyway, and then the sweetness of that girl who almost got killed at the beginning. She was great. And then Philip Maddock, leader, cool guy. And he was really brilliant in the Scarifiers, as Lee had mentioned. He was quite something amazing as Beef Dad had mentioned. So I really enjoyed. This week has been a lot of Philip Maddock for us, and I'm actually quite pleased by that fact. And so, really great story, and lots of little high tension moments. And so I'll just leave it at that. Keep it short.
Oh, that was short. You took what I was going to say, Susan. I was surprised no one else. It's not been mentioned before now that Zoe outsmarting the Doctor, and actually it shows she's got great intellect, which Zoe really was good in this episode. I think this was a really good story for her.
For me, I recognize intellect. Okay. I mean, I recognize the brilliance of.
Do you feel it in this room? Do you feel it in this? Do you feel any intellect?
I feel it in this room right here. I'm with one of those high minds here, and this one could fly his own spaceship with his mind. So, but
that would make for an interesting cast.
I'm yes. So I'm just saying that I recognize intellect, and I recognize.
I don't think Alex is too sure. I think Alex might want to say something about that.
I'm not done though. Okay, could you let me finish?
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. So I recognize intellect. I am not the high mind, but I do recognize it in other people. So
do you recognize it in Hull?
What I. Just accept the fact that I recognize it in one person here. I'm not with you guys.
Only
I have not picked your brain at oh gosh, I'm just gonna leave it at that, okay?
That's fine.
Yeah, I suppose.
Okay, so that was pretty funny, the high minds. I don't know if they meant high intellect or high as in drugs.
No.
That's okay, Susie, I'm kidding.
Welcome to Massachusetts.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
Welcome to Massachusetts. Yeah, cannabis. Yeah. What was I going to say? Yeah, I mean, Zoe actually was a very intelligent character, and just because she was wearing the bodysuit, I know a lot of people just look at that. I mean, they had that in the Avengers as well, which was also of the school of Doctor Who as well. And the same writer.
Wasn't as smart as Zoe.
Okay, but I'm saying that I noticed that a lot of people, especially if they're very modern or young, seem to forget that it was the 60s. The budget was not very high. It wasn't $1 million an episode or more. And they could have done a lot less with the characters and the actresses that they had, and they didn't. And I get a little bit upset when I realize that a lot of TV shows from the 60s are not looked upon as favorable as modern TV shows, which you have to have a progression and you have to have writing.
Right.
And the writing in the 60s shows was a lot better than they are now. Sorry that I disagree, but of course they didn't have all the super technology in 10 seconds, but they were trying.
Okay, and one other time that she was that her intellect was shown as like more capable than the entire computing force of the unit forces was during the invasion of the Cybermen, during the invasion story. She was able to calculate the trajectory of every single missile, and she did it in her mind basically. She wasn't on paper, and she just had a clipboard, and she did it in her mind, and she wrote down answers, and she handed those answers to people. So, I mean, we are talking about someone of a class of intellect that is, one of those Stephen Hawking sorts, or Einstein sorts, as an earthly equivalent. Anyway, there's my 10 cents about her.
Let's go to Stephen. Let's try Stephen again. Are you there?
Sorry, I was out of the room. Yeah, good episode, end of. No.
I was going to say that was quick. If only Alex could be that quick.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one for got to be over 30 years.
You haven't seen it for good. You must have a good memory to do this review.
I can't even remember what it was about.
So you haven't watched it for 30 years?
What?
You haven't watched it for 30 years?
Oh, maybe longer. It was a hell of a long time. Well, anyway, yeah, it was a good episode. Like Lee said, it wasn't one of Trouton's best. No, I agree on him with that. Yeah, it was okay. I liked the story about it. Philip, the Welsh actor, Philip, was it Maddock or something? He's been in a future Doctor Who episode. I can't remember which one it was. If anybody could help me with that.
War Games, The Brain of Mobius, The Power of Kroll.
Right.
Take your pick.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, he's been in a few then. Yeah, I thought. I really enjoyed this episode. Like I said, it's not one of Trouton's best. That's all I'm going to say for now.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in agreement with everyone else. But I actually think this is one of his best. I actually generally really enjoyed this story.
I thought it was a bit, to me, it was a bit overlong.
You see, I don't think it was. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the pace of it. I enjoyed it. It was 4 episodes. I think it's one things go into 6 episodes, 7-parters and stuff like that, that things tend to drag.
I mean, the Daleks Master Plan, I viewed that on audio and it's 10 parts and that is too long.
Yeah, I've never listened to that audio. Yeah, I'd like to see it animated.
I enjoyed it. I did. Yeah, Daleks.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the best TARDIS teams, full stop. With Jamie, Zoe, and the Doctor, I think they're fantastic together. Robert Holmes, Doctor who's ever had.
Zoe,
yeah.
Actor plays Zoe, and Fraser, but unfortunately didn't meet Trouton.
Hey, oh, you met them two of you?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah, 3 years ago, they were in the same con together.
I bet Lee's met Trouton. Have you met Trouton, Lee? If he's there. No. He's completely zoned out. Yeah, I think it's, like I say, the only problem is with this story is really the Krotons looking a bit, yeah, they could have been designed better. I would have just had headshots of them. And
my cousin has got a figure of one of them, which must be worth something.
Mm-hmm. Got a figure of what?
One of the Krotons, she got a figure of him.
Oh, a toy.
One of them, yeah. I think it's
yeah. I didn't know they'd come out as a toy.
Well, she tried to sell it to me, but I got to win the lottery to buy it off her.
Well, how much are you selling it for?
About 70 quid.
A toy?
Yeah.
She's selling a toy for 70 quid? A little plastic toy?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a toy of the Krotons. I remember that. There's.
Yeah, I looked it up on eBay. It's about £70 they're going for.
God, they didn't even spend that on this episode.
In the box, in the box, more expensive.
Yeah, but it always is, isn't it?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I like this story. I like Patrick Troughton. I think he's one of the most influential doctors there is, if not the most influential.
Anyway, before I went on a different link and I thought, Krotons are, all the episodes.
Hmm.
And guess what happened? A Matt Smith episode came on. It was somebody put him on instead of the Krotons. Oh my God, no! He went off straight away.
I think someone's trolling you, Stephen. they know how much you like Matt Smith and how highly you think of him.
Oh,
You're number one doctor, isn't he?
oh no.
Have you got any favourite moments from the Krotons, Stephen?
Stephen loves
Yeah?
Stephen loves Matt Smith.
No, I don't.
Have you got any favourite moments from the Krotons, Stephen?
Yes, where Troughton is covering his eyes. He's like petrified, scared of the light that's coming towards him. I thought that was a bit.
Well, that's how it doesn't recognise him, yeah.
Yeah.
And the bit where his umbrella gets zapped.
Yeah.
That was good to see his face. He's got a great.
When they landed the TARDIS and he pulled out his umbrella, I thought he's in Swansea.
It looks a bit like Swansea, doesn't it? Really?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Let's stick with favourite moments. Let's go to Brian. Brian, I forgot you watched the episode, have you, Brian?
Yes, I have.
How many parts has it got?
4.
On then.
Maybe I just got confused earlier. I don't know. I got quite often confused a lot.
Do you? I wouldn't have guessed.
No.
You know we're in 2020 now, don't you, Brian?
No.
Why are you wearing the 2019?
What the hell are you wearing? What the hell?
No, we're in 2019. No, but
Well, what's your favourite moments of the Krotons?
I think my number one favorite moment within this story is when Zoe and the doctor was at the machine, like the computers and everything, and the doctor was working out, trying to figure out how it works and everything to do and everything. And it ended up that Zoe knew more and telling him how to work in the machine, everything. I thought that was...
He was getting quite frustrated, wasn't he?
Well, yeah, he was getting frustrated, and it was. I mean, it was funny because you never saw anybody, companion or otherwise,
outsmart the doctor. Yeah.
outsmart the doctor and see anybody else smarter than the doctor. So I thought that was pretty interesting and funny at the same time. So, I believe my second favorite thing about this episode would be the Krotons itself, because just the way and design of the Krotons, it looks like an old cheesy cereal box of a robot. But I mean, it looks like a cereal. I think it looks like a cereal box with a couple of...
What cereal do you have in America that looks like that?
Like a cereal box with a satellite dish on it and maybe like a pencil head.
The hell are you on about?
No, but well, to be fair, it is like around the 1960s and everything, so of course it's going to look cheesy.
Well, it is the 1960s.
And that's what I'm saying, though. The special effects and everything, visual effects, special effects, anything like around that time more cheesy. So to be fair, it meant to look that way. So, yeah, I think those are the main things about the story I love. So, and just the way to, and another thing I would have to say I love is the interaction, other than that scene between the Doctor and Zoe, but the fact that their relationship and interacting with one another, which
Yeah.
between the Doctor and Zoe, because I think the story might be at least one of the first times you get to see how intelligent Zoe is and how superior intellect she is with the Doctor. So I think that is pretty cool in itself. So we have an actual companion that is a bit more intelligent than the Doctor. So yeah, that is pretty.
Yeah, and they use her well in this story, don't they? Well,
That's downright clever and interesting for a companion. So good on it.
let's go to Harry for favorite moments.
For me, it's hard to really say there's a favorite section in the entire story. I mean, it's just, I think if there's one area I could say that surprised me a little bit, was that comedic scene between Pat and Wendy when the Doctor, when Zoe had to keep telling him, "You're doing the wrong thing," on the education machines. He's always looking up at Zoe saying, "Oh dear, now what am I doing wrong this time?" And she has to tell him what he's doing wrong when actually he's just teasing him just when he knows the answer, but he's just trying to make his companions feel good. I mean, as I said, it's not a bad story, but Holmes needed a lot of work on this first story. That's the best thing I can say on it.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Let's go to Beef Dad for favorite moments.
I loved the bit where the leader of the Guns, Sirius, managed to burst his way into the Kroton dinosaur with the bottle of sulfuric acid. Admittedly, he gets killed, but it allows the Doctor to poison them from inside. Speaking of the Doctor and them, early on, the way the robotic eye comes out like a serpent, and the expressions on his face at that moment, I thought to myself, now I understand why they got John Pertwee to take the part, because the facial similarity between him and John Pertwee at that particular moment is absolutely extraordinary. And yeah, I love it when Fraser faces down the Krotons. That is really good. And he also manages to escape. There's some very, very clever moments. And of course, every episode, except the last one, obviously, each episode ends with a bit of a cliffhanger. And that was the magic of Doctor Who at that period. Every episode ended with a cliffhanger, except the final episode of the story. Yeah, and those are my favourite bits. And as I say, Wendy and her crouton jokes. Yes, she was a giggle, bless her.
Yeah, no, Pat and John, they do have very similar, when they're pulling faces, they look very similar. You know, they've got great facial expressions. Yeah. I mean, you watch Colony in Space, which I recently watched again, and he pulls some faces like Patrick Troughton in this. Very, very similar facial expressions. Let's go to Lee for favourite moments. Then we'll go to Susan and Alex.
Well, they mostly had the same facial expressions because they came from the same sort of era of the school of acting. What can you say? I mean, I love the quaint little scenes, you know, like at the beginning where they come out the TARDIS and Jamie goes, "Oof, rotten eggs," you know, things like that. And where they're walking through the quarry, of course, and there's the Doctor leading them with his umbrella up, and he's singing away to himself. Just little scenes like that. But then you say you do, because everybody thinks this Doctor is a fool. It's because he acts the fool. And this is where McCoy is similar to Trout. He acts the fool, but he's playing chess with the villains. It is good. As a supporting cast, I loved everything in this. Scenes, the Doctor and the Zoe scene, brilliantly done. Jamie with the interrogation by the Krotons, brilliant scene. But for me, it's the teamwork, the TARDIS team. As you say, it's one of the best TARDIS teams, but I always say that about most of the TARDIS teams. And for intellectual companions, we've always had intellectual companions. Susan was intellectual, Vicky was intellectual, we had Liz Shaw was intellectual, Romana, you know, the list is endless. But it says, oh yeah, Adric, yeah, who can forget Adric?
Can't forget Adric.
But maybe Zoe topped the lot with her IQ. There's one scene what does make me laugh is the where they're in the Krotons ship and there's the tank of primal soup, as he calls it, and puts it in his canister. What does he do? He tastes it. I mean, that could have been anything. Would you have done that? I don't think I would have done. But yeah, and say the Krotons, the way the Krotons end, you know, the end of the Krotons, where they just decayed, went back to crystalline form, is it's done really well for 1968. And I was just looking at this. I think you could class this as a New Year special of '68, because this was a crossover story from '68 to '69. So there you go. Over to you, Alid.
And over to Alex and Susan for favourite moments, if they have any.
The TARDIS team was good, and as I said, there was a lot of companions that actually were very smart. Unfortunately, you also have tropes, you also have the political viewpoint of the stories, and of course, back then, the Doctor was a lot more centric to the story and to the series, whereas in New Who, they don't do that as much. The favorite part, Zoe was good. The setup of the story was good. Not so favorite, the aliens should have been kept only in terms of the quote-unquote face. And they maybe could have edited it a little bit more. But as I said, it's always interesting to see the Hartnell stories and the Troughton stories before it became more modernized and more technological. Not that it wasn't, but it wasn't as obvious. And also it was good because you don't realize it, but Hartnell and Troughton are always thinking. They don't appear as though they are. They don't talk a lot necessarily. So at the end of the story, or when Troughton makes a statement like a power of the Daleks or evil of the Daleks, it carries a lot more weight when you realize that he's been, plotting and planning the whole time through. It's just not obvious, which is also good because that can also draw you into the story, that you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be spoon-fed everything as well. I noticed there was a few times again where Jamie almost was getting very angry, especially when he thought he lost the Doctor. He thought Zoe was gone. He was getting very angry. Of course, he was also used as a little bit of the muscle even back then. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad that I've seen Hartnell stories and Troughton stories.
Scottish Shield.
Well, yeah, I don't know about the Stargate reference. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of interesting things with Doctor Who, and again, we're lucky, and the BBC is lucky that people still want to watch a show almost going on 56 years. That they really found a way 90% of the time to keep the show going and to keep things interesting and to, have different characters.
Okay, and my favorite moments were, I guess, when, just after those guys had destroyed the other two learning machines, Zoe's like, well, here's a computer. I can mess with this computer like I did with other computers, and I will continue to assert my dominance over all the computers in the universe. And turns out she was just, being tested then. So that was cool. And so that's got to be my favorite moment. Another favorite moment was, Lee had mentioned it earlier, them teaching the Gorns how to do the hydrosulfuric or sulfuric acid, or was it hydrochloric acid? Which one was it? Anyway, whichever one it was, that's what they were doing. That's my favorite moments.
She calls herself a fan and she doesn't know which one it was.
Oh, come on.
Come on, Susan. You need to up your game. Yeah, I think...
All right, sulfuric acid then.
Really, yeah. All you got to... I knew you knew it. See? Well, really, all the best bit. We've taken all the moments, really, haven't we? We've mentioned everything about this episode now. So we might as well move to final say and score because there's no more favourite moments, I don't think. Let's go to Beef Dad. Let's start off with Beef Dad since Brian's always moaning.
Wait, what the hell?
I really enjoyed this. I mean, I remember watching it when it was originally broadcast. And it was I thought it was great. I remember my mother enjoyed it, but then again, she liked 20 Padbury because it was nice to have a highly intelligent woman. It was excellently well performed, not just by the TARDIS team, but their supporting cast was pretty damn good too. And yeah, where can we go? Yeah, I'm going to give it a 10.
10. Wow. Let's go to Harry. If he's there.
I'm back. As far as I'm concerned, I have to give this 2 different ratings. The story itself as aired, not bad, but not great. I'd probably give it about a rating of a 5. The book, well, I enjoyed Terrence Dick's work. I know he always has enjoyed working on stories for Robert Holmes. Normally, I have to give this one a 6 on the book because it is Terrence Dick's and it is Robert Holmes. It is Holmes' first story. And as I said, the story shows it needs work. Plus, it looks like it may have been originally written for the first Doctor and was later redone for the second. So the story gets a 5, book gets a 6.
Let's go straight to Susan for a reaction on that score.
Harry?
Susan, your face that was priceless. I mean,
Harry, buddy, I just totally disagree. I think that, giving it only half of the marks isn't accurate. I mean, it's got a cool villain. It's got a cool little culture in it. It's got a computer for Zoe to fiddle with. It's got this
You're
mist.
struggling now, aren't you, Susan?
It's got this mist that wastes whole bodies.
You're not really selling it. It's going down in my estimation now.
There's a bunch of stuff which is really super fun about this, and I'm gonna give it 9.5 brains of Morbius. No, 9.5 Croton crystalline heads out of 10. And Alex will be back in just a moment to give. Oh, he just shouted it in. He's giving it an 8, which is
That's brilliant. Yeah,
pretty good for him, you know.
Yeah, no, eight's very good for Alex. Usually gives things 9s. Let's go to Stephen Price.
I enjoyed it. Enjoyed the story. I'd have to give it a 9. Can't go any lower than that.
9. Let's go to Brian.
Hello.
Give me strength.
I think I would probably give this story a 6 out of 10.
What? What? Are you just copying Harry now? Why a 6? I thought you enjoyed it.
I did.
Just not that great.
No, I did. I just thought I'd give it a 6.
So you just thought, you know what? I haven't used a 6 in a while. I'll just pluck out a 6.
Yeah, pretty much. Unless you want me to go higher, I could go higher. I could give it an 8.
So an 8. You giving it an 8?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're gonna give it an 8.
Yeah.
You could give it a 4 if you wanted to.
Yeah, you're right. I'll give it a 2.
A 2. All right, 2 from Brian.
No. Give it an 8. I'm gonna stick with an 8.
No. You've had several choices. Now we're sticking with 2.
No.
You've given it a 2.
I want the 8.
How dare you? We're going to kick you off these casts now for being so disrespectful to Patrick Troughton.
I want an 8.
2 from Brian. Let's go to Lee. Lee, is it going to be higher or lower than a 2? If he can unmute himself.
It's an 8.
Yeah,
Oh, he's gone. Oh no, he's back.
As I said, it's neither one of the best, but it's neither one of the worst for me, because for Troughton, there is a few more ones in. This one it drops a little bit lower that. So for me, I'm going to give it a 7.75.
That's very precise. You've given that before.
Have I?
Yeah.
So what?
Yes, he
I
has.
can't remember. 7.75 you've given before.
Yeah, I remember that too. He has given that as well.
Well, hold on a minute. Beef Dad's given 10s before. Brian's given 6s before. Susan's given 9.5s before. So I give it 7.75 again.
No, we're not having it again.
Anyway, come on, your go.
You can do whatever you want, man.
Give 7.7.
You're free. You're not a Gorn, and you're not indebted to the Krotons. You're not a companion to the Krotons. Just relax.
Yeah. I can do whatever I want, and this is what I'm going to do now.
Well, I'm going to give it 9 Gons out of 10. It's not his best, but I really enjoy this story. It's really good.
So you give it a 9?
Yeah, 9. Yeah.
Are you
Do you want me to go lower, Brian? I can go lower.
Are you sure you're not giving it a 2? Because I gave it an 8.
No, you gave it a 2. You want me to give it a 2 as well as you give it a 2?
I gave it an 8. You're the one that changed it to a 2.
All right, we'll both give it a 2 then. So it gets 4 from me and Brian altogether.
No,
Brian,
an 8.
Brian,
said
can
an
I
8.
ask, did you watch the episode? Did you watch the correct episode, I mean?
Why, do you know something, Stephen, that we don't?
I did watch the episode like you did, Mr. Pice.
Oh.
Could be I watched it before you got up this morning, you lazy bugger.
Hey, just because I woke up at 11 o'clock in the morning over here does not mean I didn't watch the episode. Thank you very much.
And can I just say, there's a big time difference between the UK and where Brian is, by the way, Stephen.
This is coming from a guy that hasn't really watched that much of movies or TV shows on here.
I don't watch the crap you watch, Brian. I don't watch Friends and all
that. Let's wrap this up before we get into a civil war between Brian and Steve.
Just be nice to each other right now.
Yeah. All right then. Well, I'd like to thank everybody here for joining me. I'd like to thank you for watching. Tell us below what you made of the Krotons or any other Doctor Who story. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Look after yourself. Take care. And we will see you next time.